Jesus said, my true family are those who serve God, who obey God, who do the will of my Father. And he says this after his mother and brother want to talk to him in the midst of him being in the middle of ministry and very important work of God, but they were concerned about this persecution when really God was saying, plow through the persecution, keep going. Don't worry, I'll fight your battles for you. I'll protect you. Just don't hide, don't retreat, keep going. And so we have the mother of Jesus and his brother acting, kind of in their emotions at this point, not meaning they had like bad motives or anything, but kind of acting in their emotions and honestly, like kind of forgetting their place. Like Jesus was Lord. And so even though Jesus was a baby at one time and came from Mary's womb, there had to be this transition of Mary seeing Jesus as her Lord and leader over her son. Like these had to be how she sees him, even though it was her natural son. And so it's like these emotions get in the way of a mother of wanting to protect and I don't know if you're going to be safe and da, da, da. And so in this moment, it was, not really in line with God's will in that moment. And so that's why Jesus says this at this moment. Only those who do the will of my Father are my true family. That's what he says in the word. And if you think about it, when he says that, it seems kind of brash. Maybe it could seem kind of harsh to some people. So it really, it just shows us this example of the seriousness of serving God and being in the will of the Father. And that has to be priority. That must be priority above everything else. And so we have to remember that, to not be ashamed of that and to not be afraid of like hurting people's feelings, because like whoever you bring in close, like if you are surrendered to God and you're obeying God and you're serving God, your spiritual health is very important. Your spiritual protection is very important. And to have the wrong people in close is detrimental to your spiritual health and protection. You're not even called to have that many people in close. So to bring the wrong person in close is really harmful. So, you need to know how important this is and not worry about hurting people's feelings. They're the ones choosing to not surrender to God and be disobedient. So you have to keep that in mind, all right? At the same time, we love everyone. We have grace for everyone. We knew many of us used to be lukewarm, used to not be fully surrendered. So we do have so much grace, but you have to remember just like the seriousness that Jesus showed us of only the family we keep in close are the ones that are doing the will of the Father. You have to remember like that has to be number one in your heart rather than like, I don't want to hurt feelings and everything, because you also have to be aware that like when people aren't surrendered to God, there's other things that can be going on. There can be manipulation going on. I mean, when anyone's surrendered to God, they're going to be the most amazing friend that anybody's ever had because they're going to be so godly. So when you're surrendered to God, you're valuable. You're so valuable. Like people don't want to lose you as a close friend. And so when someone's not surrendered to God, of course they want to have a close friend who they can be mean to and treat however they want, and the person will just be loving to them back. You know what I mean? Like you have to be aware that like when you truly are being godly, how nobody wants to lose you as a close friend, right? And so you need to not let yourself be like trampled on and be taken advantage of. You need to have value for yourself for the glory of God. Like you need to have value for yourself for the glory of God. When my spiritual father my now spiritual father, Prophet Dr. Joe Davy, when he first prophesied to me my calling in September of 8 years ago, this coming September will be 8 years. He first prophesied my calling, that I was called to be an apostle of Jesus Christ and I was called to reach the nations. And the one thing he said after that was, I see scars on your heart of how men disvalued you and didn't treat you right, something like that. And he says, you need to value yourself a little bit for you to reach your calling that I just prophesied. And it really shocked me because I'm like, value myself. I literally thought that I had the highest standard more than any of my Christian friends, because at that point, when he prophesied that, I had gone, how many years was it? I had gone about 8 years without having a boyfriend. And that was purely because of having a high standard. Number 2, because God protected me. Because of course there was some times where maybe I liked someone, but they didn't have the same feelings back. So it was also definitely God. It was not just my high standard. But when he said that, it opened up my eyes that I needed to value my worth even more. You know, I really did. And so I share that with you so you can apply that in terms of any relationships, friendships too. Because I think it's really powerful that was the only other thing that was prophesied to me when my calling came. It was like, but you won't reach your calling if you don't value yourself and you bring the wrong people close. When even I thought I had a really high standard. Let that speak to you. Let that speak to you. So, you know, you need to like have value for yourself for the glory of God. Like you need to have that understanding of, if I bring the wrong people in close, God can't use me how he wants. I'm not going to be able to reach the calling that he has for me. So you have to like really like value yourself, and then it will help you to see rightly people, you know, instead of seeing them with a religious lens of like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I say religious because like sometimes in the area of religion, it's like there's not the wisdom in the area of religion sometimes of like how serious we must be in obedience to God. And instead it can be like, don't hurt anyone's feelings. We have to love everybody. It can be like kind of that's kind of like the old wine, you know, not having that wisdom and seriousness of surrender and obedience to God, but having more of people pleasing. So yeah. So you know, we're only called to bring in a few people close to us, if that, depending on the season, just as Jesus showed us the example that he only brought 3 close disciples with him. They were the ones on the Mount of Transfiguration and in the Garden of Gethsemane. And then beyond those 3, there's only 12 he kept semi-close, and those were his 12 disciples. But there's only 3 that came in super close. So that's a good example for us, that we shouldn't have that many. And so if the ones that do come really close really need to be just like how Jesus's really close ones were. They were the most spiritually mature and surrendered. They need to be surrendered to God. How do we do this with love and grace? So don't be afraid to say, you know, maybe if you used to hang out with them a lot or talk on the phone with them a lot, just don't be afraid to put up boundaries with love and with grace. And you can say something like, the Lord is really calling me to spend a lot more time with him and serve him. This is a new season he's called me to, and this means that I'm not going to be available like I used to be. But I love you so much, and I'm praying for you. And I just wanted you to know it'll look different, like our relationship from now, because of the season that God is calling me to and the time that I need to give him. You can share something like that. And someone who's not manipulative will completely respect that. They will see, oh, wow, this is serious. And so I'm just going to step back and wait till they reach out, because it's like God's calling them to do this. So, ooh, I respect that, That's how a person should respond. And so really how a person should respond is they're not going to reach out until the other person reaches out. Or if they do reach out, it's just to say, I love you, miss you, or something, but not like, can we hang out now? But so if a person is, not respecting what you said and just continuing to ask, can you hang out now? Can you, have the discernment to see this person is not valuing what God has called me to do. That's not good. There could be manipulation here. Have that discernment and value yourself, and don't feel bad and don't feel like awkward, like, oh no, like this is awkward. Like they're asking me to hang out and like I have to say no again. Like grow up spiritually and take on that heart that Jesus had. My true family are those who will do the will of the Father, and nothing matters more than doing the will of my Father. So that means I'm not going to please everybody. That means I'm going to make people upset sometimes, but I don't care. All that matters is serving God and obeying him.